In 1914, the world erupted in war. Nations mobilized armies, factories, and funds. On the surface, the United States declared itself neutral, but behind the scenes, invisible ledgers were already shifting. Private banks, financiers, and a newly formed central bank were quietly rewriting the rules of money and war. This is a look behind the smoke screens and blood, the real structures and banking dynasties pulling the strings of death. It's as dark as you can imagine. When World War I broke out in 1914, the U.S. was officially neutral, but financially, it was deeply invested. The private banking houses underwrote loans to the Allies, shifting the risk of war onto American shoulders while reaping the profits of interest. Behind those loans were mighty banking dynasties, connections stretching across Europe and America. Among them, the Warburg family. Paul Warburg, a German-born American banker, helped design the Federal Reserve and became one of its first governors in 1914. His brother Max Warburg worked in Germany, while Paul worked in the U.S. The family's banking network bridged continents, enabling funds to flow from American depositors into European war coffers, and then back again as interest and debt. Interesting, isn't it? Two rival countries, but you scratch the surface and find brothers in control of each country's central bank. So while the public heard stories of patriotic bond drives and liberty loans, the real game was being played in boardrooms and bank vaults. In December 1913, the Federal Reserve Act established the Federal Reserve System in the United States, a central bank with complex ties to private banking interests. Yes, this was literally set up 6 months before World War I. Before the debt and credit loophole started, Britain and France were still sending ships filled with gold to New York. Straight to J.P. Morgan, who acted as the custodian and agent, making payments to U.S. suppliers on behalf of the British government. But then the gold supplies in Britain and France started to get dry. They couldn't afford to send any more gold. Solution? Of course it was already planned. The key player is now the Federal Reserve. It became the intermediary through which money was created and credit expanded, enabling the U.S. and its banks to fund the war indirectly. Simply put, Morgan issued bonds in New York under the name of the British or French government. American investors bought those bonds using U.S. dollars. The dollars went into Morgan's account in New York, from which he paid American companies for munitions, steel, wheat, and supplies. Then that's shipped off to the Allies and added as IOUs, high-interest promises from Britain and France that they will pay the bankers back. You see the system now. The Federal Reserve was the very infrastructure needed to pull this off. So how much did the Allies end up receiving from J.P. Morgan? Well, the largest loan ever in human history, equal to over $90 billion today. There was a lot of pushback against the Federal Reserve. People with good morals and financial literacy knew this was the beginning of printing, inevitable future inflation. Coincidentally enough, these people chose to take a boat ride on J.P. Morgan's luxury ship. Yep, that one, it sank. The president at this time, Woodrow Wilson, was still preaching neutrality to the public. But who is he to speak when the wealthiest families in the country already have a vested interest in this war, not to mention most of the population who are intertwined with the stock market? So now Morgan and the bankers are in the president's ear. There's too much invested now. They say, we can't have Britain and France defaulting on these loans. So out rolls the propaganda. Now we need to convince the public that we're going to war. For freedom, for liberation. No, to protect assets and bankers' investments. The war money trail is strange. Loans sent to Britain. Britain lends that money to France. Then France lends that money to Russia. The beginning of the permanent debt cycle. So much gold flowed out of Europe that now America is becoming the global gold storage. This was the plan all along, but let's save the gold transfer topic for another video. The Allied countries keep the propaganda campaigns running all through the war. In Britain, for example, the Victory Bond, War Bonds, and Freedom Bond campaigns ran from 1914 to after the war in 1919. The bankers tried to take everything they could from the civilians before switching to debt repayment strategy. What did they plan for the repayments? The Treaty of Versailles, of course. Bleed Germany dry for everything and more. The strange cycle continues. Germany borrows from the US to pay its reparations to Britain and France, who in turn pay their debts to America. And the bankers? Well, remember the Warburg brothers. Paul Warburg is taking commissions and helping send the money to Germany. Then in Germany, Max Warburg is pulling in steep commissions and fees. You think they cared about the outcome of either country? It's a system that benefits the bankers no matter which way the war goes. War is a profitable business, and it became more profitable than ever, with the creation of printing, central banks, and bonds. The 11th of November 1918, the shooting stops. The end result, 20 million dead, a few billion in profits for the bankers. The world reshaped forever. The only thing guaranteed is that it'll happen again thanks to the Treaty of Versailles.